Field engineer office duties, RFIs, submittals, logs, and documentation in construction. In this short video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the office duties of a field engineer. And I do want to make the point that a project or office engineer can be field focused. So there's some mix there. And I want to talk to you as I start, before I get to these topics, about a pattern that I strongly believe in. I have encountered this almost countless times. That's probably a little bit exaggerated, but where an assistant or area superintendent is overwhelmed because they are doing the job of the engineers. And I remember Dan Degnan and Mike Redwine from Hensel Phelps had really neat lists. They were general superintendents of a project in trouble. And one of the signs was that a leader is doing lower level work. Not that they're not willing to, meaning they're humble and they will if they need to, but consistently doing somebody else's work. And that's a problem. Let me just say this. If the project is dirty, there's chaos, it's unorganized, people are not safe, then that means that the superintendents either don't know what they're doing, they're not fit for duty, or they're distracted doing engineering tasks. Although I'm not a huge fan of role segregation, meaning I do like overlap and cross-training, I have often had to say, assistant superintendent, it is your job to be safety presence in the field, quality presence in the field, and plan and execute work. I need these areas perfectly clean, I need them perfectly safe, I need them organized, I need the trades flowing. If the trades are going to come and ask you questions, ask them. If it's a request for information, if it's a submittal question, and you know your field engineers in your office and project engineers can answer it, ask them to go talk to them so that you can stay focused. This is kind of a funny example, but I have a lot of kids, 11 kids. That's a real story. They're all mine and Kate's. We pay taxes, they're insured, so there's no need to judge me. I take them out on the weekends all by myself, or as Jack Sparrow said, all by me onesies. Like, I am a jammin' dad. Like, I freaking love it. Here's what I've noticed. In my house, it's noisy and chaotic. In fact, when I go on trips, I have to play like rain sounds, like white noise to fall asleep because I'm used to the noise. And in my house, if it gets quiet, I'm like, wait, what? What is going on? And I'm like, okay, and I'm gonna go check, and sure enough, the kids are marking on the walls with markers or crayons, and they're quiet because they don't want to get caught. Now, trades are not children, and I'm not disparaging anybody, but a superintendent's got to be focused for when things get quiet and people are marking on the walls. Like, we have to have a presence, a leader in the field. And so we must have field engineers and office and project engineers at the ready to do their job so that we can free up some time for field supervisors. So let's talk about it. A field engineer will 100 million billion trillion% engage in writing and submitting and posting an RFI. In fact, when I was a field engineer, I loved, and that was back before we did it digitally, I'd get my templates out, my little circle templates, square templates, and my compass, and I would draw. I loved posting drawings. I don't know why. Maybe it's just that meticulous side of me. Anyway, so like a field engineer will, especially because they're doing lift drawings, you're going to find missing information, and then you need to write, submit, and post those RFIs. Now, some people will think it's all the project engineer or all the office engineer's duty. If you train the field engineer properly, there's no reason they can't do RFIs. The other thing is, if the field engineer is assigned a specific task, they can track and then review and then submit and then distribute submittals, but I don't find this happening all the time. I'm doing such a good job here. You gotta like this video. I'm just kidding. No, seriously. But like, they will review the submittals and it will go back into their lift drawings. So field engineers have a key part to play in there because submittals are a part of lifting information from other locations and putting it into that single drawing. The other thing is, I remember this very vividly. The first project I was ever on was a massive prison. I wasn't in prison, I was helping build a prison, but the trend chart was tracking concrete. I thought it was like 65,000 cubic yards. It was something crazy. And then we had, so the amount of yardage was on the y-axis and time was on the x-axis. And I remember tracking that trend chart all the way to the end and working with the super. That was one of the office duties that I very much appreciated, because field engineers are in charge of quantity takeoffs and doing quantity surveys and making sure that we're tracking progress in the field. So the trend chart responsibility was really neat office duty. And then as-built. As-built obviously for working with trade partners, for surveying the inverts of lines, locations, as-builting the coordinates of underground utilities, as-built anything required by the authority having jurisdiction, making sure that those are done. Let me tell you just a quick story. I remember a project that was done beautifully, and the project was about to finish a week early, and the owner was just like a raving fan client. But the field engineers, and I had nothing to do with this, so I'm not blaming. Jocko Willink would not be mad at me. But they lost 50% of the sewer and underground storm drain as-built, so they actually didn't get their C of O a week early. They actually had to go rip out hardscape and landscape. I'm not making fun of it, but rip out landscape and hardscape and go do new invert shots with a professional surveyor and get all of those done professionally and detailed out, and then submit those to the city, and then finally finished right on time. It's very frustrating. But as built, we got to make sure that all of those are ready for C of O. In that case, you can finish properly and we have a happy owner. So my point with this one is the field engineers definitely have office duties, and it's quite remarkable. So the point here is that there's a balance, and talk to your superintendents to know exactly what that balance should be, and use the book Construction Surveying and Layout. There's some beautiful chapters on office duties, and if you ever have any questions, reach out to us. But this is the last of this 20 video series on field engineers and how you implement from start to finish. I hope you've enjoyed this. On we go.